Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. With me today is a repeat offender. I have Dr. Kent Hungerford. He's a podiatric surgeon, owner of South Coast Foot Surgery, Shell Harbour, New South Wales. And today we've got a very, very interesting topic. We're going to talk about why podiatrists are hesitant to adopt new technology. So, Kent, how are you doing on this fine day? I won't say what day it is, so people keep them guessing.
G'day, Tyson. I'm going really well, thanks. It's been a very busy week already. We don't know if it's the start or the end, as you say. So I think everyone's really having a lot of fun at the moment. Yeah, keeping busy.
Well, I will admit, I do record on a Wednesday. So it's a fine Wednesday. Wednesdays is normally my podcast recording day. I like to look at my week and try and dedicate certain days to certain times. And occasionally I'll do the odd one on a Friday. So people don't know if it's a Wednesday or a Friday, but today is a Wednesday.
That's it. I know I've got some filming ready to go later this Arvo as well. So it must be just a great day for it.
So when we spoke last time, you were talking about your injection courses, or we spoke about injection therapies. And that was episode, I don't have it in front of me, but I know
190.
190. Okay. Almost sounds like darts. How have those courses been going? How has it gone so far?
Yeah, really good. So we started last night with our new course, our February course, and
so now you've given away. Now you've given away the date.
Oh, there you go.
That's all right.
So everyone's really enjoyed it. Of course, everyone's really quiet to start with, and but I can really see that the interest is there. A lot of people that are already doing a few injections, and even more of them that are unsure about injections, haven't had any experience. I can't wait to see where we are in another 2 months when they're really implementing that into their practice.
How many weeks do you do it over? What's
Typically
the length?
Around 8 weeks. So we do about 5 weeks worth of content and 8 weeks worth of fortnightly Zooms to really consolidate in case conference. And I know some of those sort of start, like last night being around that sort of hour 15. But then the later ones, they've come 2.5, 3 hours, I think, was my the largest one. And that was a lot of revision, a lot of case conferencing, a lot of laughs. So it was really, those sort of ones, they're the ones that I can't wait for.
Yeah, it's when I do the 12-week reboot, last one coming up on March the 2nd. So hopefully this will come out before March the 2nd and people will hear that. But when I do the reboot, it's the same thing. You'll get a group of people in there. And because we're doing it on Zoom, the first 1 or 2 sessions, a little bit quiet. Everyone, they're not sure about each other. But by the time you're halfway through, the group is actually interacting a lot better. By the time you get to the end of the 12 weeks, it's great where how you have some people from the UK, other states, and now they're all friends outside of the group as well. They've all connected with each other on Facebook. And that's where I think the real learnings takes place.
Yeah, and that's definitely a little bit about what I'll be talking about today as well, because, like we say, adopting new technology, it's not one practice, one practitioner. Yeah. It's really sort of a drive from the community of practitioners. And I think having that communication and open up those pathways, the community is really what we're talking about there.
Okay, so let's get onto the topic about podiatrists hesitant to uptake technology.
Yeah,
what do you mean by it? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, new technology, new interventions. I think historically, and across all industries as well, implementing new technology and research into practice, not necessarily health practice, even in engineering and practice, it's going to be a long sort of pathway. And people are scared, people are nervous. And I remember when I first looked at some of the technology as a new graduate podiatrist. I shied away. I remember a practitioner telling me, about these laser therapies. Well, that can't work. It's only light. And I just think, great. That's that sort of closed me down for a little bit, and it took another year before I had another look at it and sort of found, the bright world of laser therapy as such. But I think biomedical research, and I've had a bit of a look at the research and the research of the research. And they typically say it takes about 17 years from intervention discovery to widespread implementation. Okay. Now that's really something, I thought. But when you think about it, in what we're using, that can be quite a lot more. And I'm going to say a few stats here, because amlodipine for cardiovascular disease took 23 years from concept to wider implementation. Yeah. Pretty important thing, your heart. the link between smoking and ill health to a ban on advertising. That was 54 years, Tyson. And I just think that's crazy. But even, more simple things when we're starting to look at, shockwave therapy, something that as podiatrists in the technology world, we've been using predominantly more so in the last 10 years. It's been around for about 40 years. And, we're seeing some great research, but then, other things like laser therapies and ultrasound therapies, or ultrasound imaging, I should say, and then our laser photobiomodulation therapies, laser therapies, they've been around since, the 1980s in a health context. And we're still only really seeing in the last 5 years that they're being implemented more commonly. And my pet love in practice, of course, but ultrasound imaging across podiatry practice and even through to physiotherapy practice, I don't understand why practitioners are hesitant to adopt these new technologies.
Do you think with some of them, it's cost could be one thing? Like to buy a shockwave unit, you're looking at it $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, depending on the machine, the supplier, and other factors. Where you live and getting it there.
Yeah, that's it. And that's not even talking about the training. Yeah,
so I can understand cost could be prohibitive, but even simple things like when dry needling came about. Yeah. And that's not, a needle costs you nothing. They're almost free. That's how cheap they are. So, but there's also a thing too, I call it the bandwagon effect, where everybody, I talk about this in the 12-week reboot, a whole pile of weird stuff. People will sit back and they're very slow adopters. They'll see a couple of people are doing, they go, oh, I don't know, should we really be doing dry needling? Is that really within our, and a few people are scared because they're thinking, oh, hang on, can someone clarify from the registration board, am I allowed to do dry needling? And there's a bit of panic.
We're so scared to be branded as pseudoscience believers and all the fake experts on social media that anything new comes with risk and losing your credibility. When really there's so much proven, well-researched aspects, and a lot of this is being used internationally. And, it makes you scratch your head and wonder, okay, well, why isn't this more commonly utilized?
Yeah, and stick with the dry needling, but then what you'll find is all of a sudden a few people start doing it, but then they start marketing it in that they do dry needling now. And everyone's going, oh, well, if my competition is doing dry needling, I must do dry needling then. And all of a sudden, that's when I talk about the bandwagon effect. Everybody starts diving. The more social proof there is that it's then accepted, then everybody dives on. But I always also say, when I've spoken to people, how many people who do dry needling, and nearly everyone puts a hand up there, they've gone and done the course. Okay, how many people charge for the dry needling on top of whatever you're doing? And most people, the hands go down. Yeah. And I go, how many people are still doing dry needling as much a year later than what they did the first week after doing the course? Everyone's hands down. So I think sometimes they can jump on a certain thing, like say dry needling didn't cost a lot, but then the interest died. What's the stretchy tape? I've forgotten the name of it.
Paraband or the rock tape.
Yeah, like all the rock tape. When all that came on the market, everyone was into all the rock tape and the different ways and the different colors. Yeah. Very excited. They bought a ton of it. And then after a period of time, they start going back into their old habits. So I'm wondering, with some of the technology where they've got to spend a lot more money, like foot mobilization was another one. Everyone jumped on the bandwagon, do foot mobilization. And there was a certain group that were doing it for so long and were getting results from it. But everybody else just sat back thinking, oh, I'm not sure about this voodoo.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of it comes down to what we're taught in uni. And, I always bring, like dry needling, I suppose, but even into injection therapies. Like we had a bit of a chat in our last catch up that, I felt myself, even coming out of university, that I was scared and hesitant of injections. And there wasn't really a medium to be able to learn how to do these more effectively or efficiently. And then it becomes, that, okay, well, I'm now out of practice, like your dry needling, you haven't done the course for a year, you haven't been doing it as often. How do I get back into that? And I think, normalizing these practices and using them in combination with our tried and tested old school, eccentric strengthening, orthosis and offloading, all of these sort of things need to be used, and then adding in you know, whether it's dry needling, injection therapies, laser therapy, shockwave, to increase that patient outcome and how quickly we reach that point as well. But I do think, yeah, you know, it's the education side and that shared communication about these different ways that we're teaching or undertaking that practice as well. That's a really, really important aspect there. You know, the fact that, you know, while technology and the way people communicate and interact has changed dramatically over the last 15 years, how we teach really hasn't. And I think we really need to, you know, re-establish, okay, what are we doing there? Particularly the younger generation, you know, we don't want to sit back and read boring papers or go through things that don't have pretty pictures or videos, as we often do see. And so, you know, we really need to, you know, look at how we're taught and, you know, even going into, okay, well, there's this different intervention here. Let's, you know, maybe increase that to, okay, break down those barriers about then being able to adopt that technology more readily as soon as we're seeing those great early stage papers coming through.
Should it be do you feel the universities should be responsible for embracing some of the new technology and not leaving it up to the private practitioners to be doing it? Because I was talking to a podiatry student, say 3 years ago, and I think they were in their second year. We're having a chat about something, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're starting to make orthotics." I went, "Oh right, okay." I said, "Let me tell you what they're going to. Let me go through what I think they're teaching you." And I explained what they're teaching about how to make orthotics, and he went, "Were you in the back of the room?" And I said, "No, it's because that's the same thing that they taught us 30 years ago. That they're teaching you to do it exactly." And I understand you've got to have the basics, but geez, things have moved on from the root theory a little bit.
And that's it. You know, well, we've now got a blended model and you know, a lot of soft tissue theory in there. I'm getting that right, hopefully.
We'll hear about it if you're wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Let's keep going with it, right?
Let's just stick with it. I told you that. If you're not right, just keep going with it.
And I think, you know, the universities have got to cram a lot of information into a very short period of time. You know, building up from a health sciences, whether that's sort of your, you know, Bachelor of Health Science, Master Podiatry or otherwise, we've all got that general health sciences build from there. And that's going to be that foundation. And there's only so much we can put in on top of that to really enable us to encompass what podiatry is. And a lot of that, yes, is nail and skincare, our core skills as a general graduate podiatrist, along with our basic biomechanics and, you know, how to, you know, create an orthotic via a plaster cast, because, you know, we're not all using 3D models, of course, most of us are. But it is crazy. But, you know, I can't blame the universities in this way because there's so much content to get through. And I think
there is.
Like every profession coming out, a lot of your learning is really in that first 2 years after you graduate, and then building upon that and getting that information is really difficult. And I know that's, you know, a little bit of what I do and trying to help other people train and learn. But it's getting that high quality content that can be quite hard too.
Can I ask you a controversial question?
I love it.
And then we'll come back to this since we may have upset people already. So we may as well just keep going.
Well, it's done and dusted.
Why stop now? Is what you're thinking then because of someone graduating and then working for themselves straight away. Now, I sound hypocritical because that's exactly what I did 30-something years ago, different times to what it is today. But in hindsight, I look back and I wish I hadn't have worked for myself. I wish I had worked for somebody else for at least 2 years, but also Jackson Tisdall that was on the podcast. And I really respected the fact that when he was on, he graduated and he didn't just take the first job that was offered to him because he didn't like the job. That wasn't the part of podiatry he wanted to do. So yeah, I think people graduating now, hang out a little bit more, get the job that you're really going to enjoy. And if that job's not there, then maybe talk to somebody who's got a job going. Say, well, I'd love to work here, but can I just do this part of podiatry? I'm not really interested in the others. And try and stick more with what you really love doing.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right there, Tyson. I think anyone that jumps straight into their own practice is doing themselves a disfavor. they're not going to be able to develop as much as what they could have if they're in a climate where they're able to jump into other practitioners' rooms and go through that. I know when I first graduated, probably a third of the time was me just shadowing one of my fellow colleagues at the practice, because I wanted to know how they worked, what they did. I've gone through a university with, they are lecturers, they are also practicing podiatrists for the most part. But, being in private practice is a whole different thing. And being able to learn from multiple people is really the strength. I know some of our medical colleagues, the reason they do such a long tenancy and residency is because they're learning off multiple people to find how they practice best. And I think that's a really important aspect. It's really forming those foundational skills in a supported environment.
Yeah, I think probably the thing I was really lucky when I set my business up, even though I had no idea what I was doing, was I had connected with another podiatrist, Chris Wilson, who'd been there about 8 years before me. And he sort of took me under his wing, and I just hung around with him whenever I had any free time, even though we lived about 40 kilometers apart.
Yeah.
We would catch up constantly, and I'd be around at his clinic and he'd be showing me things because we weren't in competition. So he was quite willing to share all this information with me. And at the same time, I had my practice and I was doing little locum stints for some people on the Gold Coast when they wanted 1 or 2 weeks holiday.
And that's exactly what you need to do. It's broadening what you're doing and who you're involving yourself with, getting those, that mixed learning, the mixed socializing there as well between different clinics.
Yeah. So I won't get on to podiatrists and medical centers living off of EPCs. That's a different story altogether. I might just have a big rant on that one day myself. So back to the technology side of things. I've always been a really early adopter. I see something and I'm so keen to know what it's all about and bring it into my clinic, especially if I can before anybody else does.
Yeah, and isn't that it? We want that point of difference, but we also don't want to be called that we're, looking at the pseudoscience as such.
Yeah.
And I think having a bit of a look at some of the research coming through, I don't understand why a lot of us aren't learning. And, again, like we spoke about, it is that postgraduate learning that we're needing to undertake so that we can really understand and appreciate and put that into practice whilst we're learning it as well, which, sometimes we can't do at uni due to, patients coming through clinics, etc. But then having a bit of a look back at the research, I know, like I said, the injection therapies, I was quite hesitant and scared coming out of university, and there's something that I've been doing a lot more of. But when we look at the evidence, which is great, it's, it's safe, it's reproducible, we get those good patient outcomes a lot quicker. But even dropping it back down to, we've got our local anesthetics and our dextrose, but then bringing it back down to saline, even as, reasonable evidence as a placebo to say that it can be as effective as a steroid injection. Steve Edwards put out a review on that one more recently. Again, laser therapies in practice, wound healing, 2/3 quicker healing as per the wound surface area. That's 2/3 quicker. Imagine the money that we could save in the public system through our high-risk clinics, through amputations and, patient impact. That's incredible. We know the stats, the 3 to 5 year survivability for someone that has even a minor amputation is really quite poor. And when we start talking about the price of the products, and definitely that's a barrier, we start thinking, okay, well, we need to be putting that money into training our practitioners, removing that barrier as well, so that we can then start getting these great outcomes and preventing morbidity and mortality.
I think that's one of the things I've found confusing with our profession sometimes is, could you imagine going to a dentist and saying, I want to get an implant? Oh, no, I don't do them. What do you mean you don't do them? Oh, no, I don't believe in implants. You better just get false teeth. We'll just whack some falsies in there. Don't worry, you're only 25. The chicks will love it.
We'll put some gold ones in.
put a big gold tooth. We'll pull out that front one and put a gold one in there. But you could grab 10 podiatrists from around the place, and I might be taking a hunch here, but if you could find an old looking complex, go down the laneway a little bit, find a dark, dingy area, and if there's a podiatry clinic in there, I will almost guarantee that podiatrist in the beige wall 1970s furniture looking clinic isn't quite up to date with things. And now there's someone listening to this and I've just offended you.
Come and have a chat with me.
Yeah, talk to Ken. It's his fault. I'm
sure it comes across to our listeners as well. I'm really passionate about this side of things. I'm really passionate about podiatry, about the interventions that we can put into place, the technology, but most importantly, educating other people so that we can get these shared outcomes. And I think, we can't all do this ourselves. And a lot of us do get lost in that private practice model where I need to be seeing the patient to make the money to survive. When really we need to take a step back and say, okay, am I doing the best by myself, by my practice, by my patients, and the community broadly? Taking that, that day, even every 2 months for, professional development and a course is a really good way and really, nice way just to upskill yourself, do a bit of a self-check. But I wonder how many businesses are actually spending at least a half day a week on their business. I know I'm at the moment, I'm spending quite a few days per week, particularly in my building phase. But, that's because there's a lot going on and, we're wanting to really make sure that we're setting up something that's going to keep being functional into the future as well.
Yeah, it brings up two things. One, I know some podiatrists will say, oh, I can't afford to go off to conferences, say pre-COVID, post-COVID, whatever. I can't afford to go to conferences. I'm too busy working my practice. I don't make enough money I can't afford to take a week off to go overseas to something. But that reminds me, like Jonathan Small always says, then put your fees up. If you can't afford to take 1 or 2 weeks away from your clinic to go and do continuing education, then you're not charging enough money. And your patients, you're punishing your patients by not putting your fees up.
Yeah, and I think, people are in business to make money. And if you're to that point, then something with the business isn't working for you. Because in the end, the business needs to work for you so that you can work for others to get them the outcome that they need in the most efficient way. And I think that's something that takes a little while to come into your own about. It's not something that's an easy concept to take on. And it's definitely another one of those barriers that are preventing people from accessing the education that then leads them onto the technology. If you're in a position where you can't afford to get the training, then you're in no position to potentially bring on some of this new technology that can cost, a certain amounts of money.
Yeah, and their number one complaint will be, oh, but my patients couldn't afford that. I'm in an area where they wouldn't pay that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, if you put your fees up, yes, you may lose a couple of patients, but those patients will go to the new guy who's setting up in town.
Yeah, and everyone's always so nervous about this, and we see it on the forums, really quite frequently. It's something that, again, jumping through my specialty, it's something that I've definitely raised my fees for. It's something I definitely advocate for, but, it's doing it in an appropriate way. But, if you're going to raise your fees by $3, why not let it be $12? You're going to be having disgruntled people anyway. And hopefully that offset makes it a little bit more worthwhile for you.
Yeah, and all the one-on-one clients that I do coaching with. So if anyone's wondering, Tyson, do you do one-on-one podiatry business coaching? Yes, I do. I get asked that all the time. I thought I'd mentioned it enough, but obviously I have to keep talking about it. So one of the first things I do, I go, show me your fee schedule. And when I look at the fee schedule, there's this one particular thing. I say, how many of these patients do you have ringing each week? They say, oh, probably about 10. I said, put that up by $40. I can't put that up by $40. I said, they don't know that you've put it up by $40. Put that up by $40. So they'll do it. I get them all to do it. Next time we talk, how'd it go? And they went, not one complaint.
Yeah.
I go, how many did you have over the last week? And they'll go, 10. I go, so you just made an extra $400. And they went, yes. And I go, because my goal when I'm doing coaching with someone, the initial thing is within the first month, be making what you're paying me, be making that. So therefore I've cost you nothing.
Yeah. And I think with that as well, it's that perceived value that a lot of people jump in, I'm paying more for this, it must be better.
Yeah.
And some people go for it, psychology is an interesting area. And, I know one of my business partners, Dave, great guy, he's doing his psychology side of things at the moment. And it's such a large area that we all need to tap into to gain a greater understanding of, what influences our patients, but more importantly, what influences ourselves, and being mindful of that too.
Oh, definitely. I think fees could have about 10 guests on here. We could talk about fees.
How much time do we have, Tyson?
But one of the things is, I mentioned this on a coaching call yesterday, and I said, yeah, at the moment in Australia, I'm not sure about overseas, the building industry is going crazy. Property prices, real estate has just gone up so much, especially in Queensland, or in the warmer areas. Everyone wants to be there, and regional areas as well. And I said, and I was talking to my brother about it. He's a dentist, and he said, really shits me that when the building industry is booming, builders can charge whatever they want. He said, but in the health industry, when we're really busy, we can't just all of a sudden just double our fees overnight because we're booked out this week. And then 2 weeks later, when we're quiet, we drop our fees down. And what I said to this coaching client was, if the building industry is going crazy and you're looking for a builder to do something and they're charging $150 an hour on top of whatever to do that particular job, if another builder came along and said, oh no, I'll build that for you for $45 an hour, I go, what would your thinking be?
Exactly. They're not as good.
Yeah, they go,
That's the big part.
They might be a little bit dodgy. They might cut corners, not use the same quality products. The thing's going to rust. Is it going to fall down pretty quickly?
Or are they going to go broke before they finish? We've seen that quite a lot in the housing industry.
So if that's what we would perceive about a builder, then what do you think patients perceive about you as a podiatrist? If you are the cheapest podiatrist in town, charging far less than what you should, do people look at you and go, oh yeah, I'm going to put you on a pedestal this week? No, they will treat you what they think your fee is.
That's it. Yeah.
Or they'll question, if you're really cheap and they come for general care, and then you mention, oh, maybe you need to have this service done, an assessment, orthotics, they might be going, yeah, I don't know. Don't know if you're the right person to be doing this for me. I probably need someone that actually knows what they're doing. The person down the road here. Because when I had my clinic here in Cairns, the amount of patients we used to do biomechanical assessments and orthotics for, and then while we were talking to them, we noticed they probably needed general foot care. We said, oh, we probably should get you back in. Oh, no, my podiatrist does that.
Yeah,
and I went,
I've heard that a lot.
What do you mean your podiatrist does that? Oh, I see such and such down the road here. And I went, oh, well, how come you didn't get them to do the orthotics? Oh, no, I don't think they're really qualified to do that. And one of these people were in my year. So I know they are qualified to do it.
Yeah, that's it. They're as qualified.
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
But the perception was they didn't know how to do it because they didn't, the clinic, the way the clinic was set up, what they charged, had a big thing to do with it. And they didn't have the technology that we had.
Yeah, and that perception around the technology, I know that's helped me in my business, and I've been fortunate to put a few of these different technologies in and work with my referrers, and that back and forth referral depending on sort of our areas, and that's a little bit different for myself. But I think benefiting in learning what's around you, is a really big thing. We see that a lot with the Swift laser therapies, or the Swift therapy, sorry, for the warts. And who's got that locally, and letting your other local podiatrist know if you don't have it. Yeah, because it is an expense, but it's something that, myself as a surgeon, it's great when someone comes in, they say, oh, I've tried the Swift, I've tried all the sal acids, I'm still not having a good outcome.
Yeah.
Or for patients where I think, there's a high scar chance, I'll be like, oh, well, do you want to try this Swift? I can't guarantee that you're not going to have scarring in this area. But it's another therapy that's good to use, and we don't all need to have every single thing, but being able to do that referral to one of your potential competitive clinics, with knowing that you're getting that good patient outcome is really important.
I think I can see, if somebody asked me on a podcast, where do I see the profession in the next 10, 15 years? Might have been on the student episode, they may have asked me that question at the end. And I really do see podiatry getting more into like specialization, where they'll take certain equipment and that's all they're going to do. Someone will be the ingrown toenail clinic. Somebody they'll just be heel pain clinics. They're not going to deal with anything else other than heel pain. They will be the wart clinic.
See, my approach is very different
Yeah.
to yours, Tyson, and I would love to come back and have a bit of a chat about the future of podiatry from my opinion as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be
I've
great.
got a full model around this, and it's something that we'll definitely be moving forward with in the coming year or two to sort of make that more broadly understood. But I think that that's a fantastic one as well, and it's a can of worms there. And everyone's got their different approach, you know, even between us two.
Yeah.
I think it's a really big part, and for me, it's a lot about allied health assistance.
Yeah, I can see even general podiatry itself is being almost a speciality. It is because we were on a call last night and we were talking about media releases and different ideas. And some of the things that came up in that there's certain areas of general podiatry that are so important, but people go, oh no, I don't want to do general podiatry. That's they sort of treat it like it's beneath them. And I don't think it is. To me, it's something that if you're a general podiatrist, you should really embrace that and become the best general podiatrist in your town. But you're only going to do it if you're keeping up with your CPD.
And that's it. You know, being very specific around that, I think, is really important. And even, you know, being connected and socializing whilst we're learning, you know, learning in those grouping environments. And I know with COVID, it's not as common anymore, and we need to make that a lot more common, you know, so that there's other practitioners in the room and not just the people leading the lesson that you're learning from, the idea that you're learning from those around you. You know, the whole of our whole lives are built around being social, and we want to have that social feeling whilst we're learning as well, and it increases that engagement and gets all the brain moving. You know, but to engage, it needs to look nice. There needs to be videos and connections to keep everyone really moving forward and taking the most out of that learning as well. And that's a big part of, like, you know, again, I'm going to do my plug now, Tyson.
Yeah, go for it.
A lot of what we're doing through the My Health Education and where we're leading with that, as well as the Australian Lower Limb Convention, where, you know, it's a convention because it's discussion-based learning. You know, even for those that are accessing from online, it's about being able to interact and ask those presenters live, okay, this is what's happening here. I want to know a little bit more about this. And I think that's a really powerful way to do it, not only being in person, but being live as well. It's really bringing that discussion-based learning back to the front, introducing these technologies and changing the way that we think. You know, like we're talking about, that adoption of new technology doesn't happen overnight, but breaking down these conversations and asking the hard questions, that's where it all comes from.
So when's your convention? We'll put the details in the show notes, because this will come out beforehand. So if people want to check it out, what's the dates? A few more details.
So the Australian Lower Limb Convention's on March 21st to 22nd, held in Kima on the New South Wales South Coast. It is going to be the inaugural and hopefully annual convention. And we've got some great speakers right through from podiatry, podiatric surgeon, orthopedic foot and ankle, pain management, and I can't wait to hear that one on minimally invasive pain procedures. Yeah. We've got vascular, orthotics, prosthetics, and over 40 sessions.
You're gonna have t-shirts?
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
You have a t-shirt, like you gotta have an awesome t-shirt that people walk away from that event that they then wear in other places, and people go, "Oh, did you go to that? Yeah, you lucky bastard."
That's a good idea. Maybe we can actually wear them to the practitioner banquet on the Monday night. I think that'd be great. A few drinks, a custom t-shirt. What could go wrong?
Well, I've gone to a lot of podcasting conferences, and they always have the coolest t-shirts. And the best part about them, the different suppliers and all that, it's like everyone's trying to outdo each other on how cool the t-shirts are. So I have this massive collection of t-shirts from the different events that I've gone to, and you wear them proudly.
Yeah.
And then people will comment, and then sometimes you get the extra shirt and you bring them back as gifts, but not your shirts. Your shirts should be one per person. That's it.
Yeah, it's an exclusive. That's it.
I can tell you where to get them from. I've done shirts for the podcast, because you're going to get one of my shirts, one of the Podiatry Legends podcast shirt. Wear it proudly.
I'll be wearing it to the next podcast.
Well, I used to wear the t-shirt on the podcast all the time. And then what was happening is I was looking at my guests who were dressed nicely like you are, with a coat and button-up shirt, and I was wearing a t-shirt. And I'm going, I feel underdressed. So that's why now I wear a collared shirt. I don't have pants on, but other than that, I've got a collared shirt.
Yeah, that was a bit like me during my last night's initial injection therapy. I left the rooms late, having done a procedure just beforehand, and I think I put on the buttoned-up shirt, and I still had my scrub pants on. And I just thought, that's pretty much my life at the moment.
Well, I've done things where we've been doing a video like we are now, and I said, hang on, I'll just go and grab something, and I've stood up, and I've got my business shirt on, but I'm wearing board shorts.
Yeah.
And they go, to be able to just wear board shorts around all day with the vision shirt. They said, that is the life. I said, it is pretty good. But I had to do a lot of work to get to this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is, one thing that you mentioned then too, but technology and networking with other people, which I think that is something they should teach at university, is the power of networking. Because you will never build your career if you're looking at all the people in the profession who are recognized names. When people mention someone in sports, who the first names that pop in the head, regardless of the country, they are also some of the best networkers. They knew, not that it's a natural skill, but they've gone out there and they've met people and they've introduced themselves, and the amount of learning that happens around a bar, at a coffee shop, between conventions and conferences is amazing.
Absolutely. And I know that's why we're doing that practitioners banquet, because it's the communication, the networking, the being able to just let your hair down when you do still have it. I know Tyson and I are not in that bucket. But being able to, just have that communication, build that genuine connection, so that, we get away from the social media and the digital communication platforms, so that we can actually say, okay, what are you doing in this? It's not something that's recorded. It's not going to come back and bite us. It's being able to make that. But how many people do you talk to and they say, I was pretty shy when I first started, and growing up as a kid, I was the one in the background that stayed in the background and didn't want to talk. And I know I was there myself, and definitely during my teen years, I started to come out a little bit more, and now I'm pretty happy to have a podcast and go with it, the uncut version. Let's see how we go. But it's all about just putting yourself out of your safety zone, and a lot of this, and bringing it back down to the technology and become an early adopter, is getting out of your comfort zone. The research, you're well-researched, evidence-based, practice-informed clinicians. It's all about being able to, reflect on how you view and use technology, and just ask, if you're using that technology in your home life, why are you not using it more in clinic to quantify, to qualify, and to intervene to increase patient outcomes as well?
Yeah, and
definitely a really important point to be taking.
Yeah, and I think in taking the networking thing a little bit further as well, if you're on holiday somewhere, I always say, don't do it if you can't write it off. So if I was going to take a holiday, at the same time, I would contact podiatrists in that area that I knew may have had some equipment that I didn't have, but I wanted to know about it. And I'd say, hey, Kent, out of curiosity, I was just wondering, I'm going to be in your area on Wednesday. Would I be able to drop in around lunchtime and take a look at this equipment? I've never had a podiatrist say no.
Yeah, absolutely. People are thrilled to be, think, I've got something they don't, and they want to learn from me. And it's a nice feeling. It's a really nice feeling. I very much encourage, reach out, see what people are doing. Do your own research. Nothing worse than getting onto something and, or going to some place and saying, what do you actually use? I thought I'd just reach out and say g'day, but I don't really know anything about you. Get the groundwork, see what they've got, go and have a good chat, see how they do things differently.
Yeah, and if you want to go to Shell Harbour for a holiday, then that's what I say. It's a fantastic way of taking holidays, but also making part of your trip tax deductible.
Absolutely. And the convention, Kiama,
yes.
It's just incredible down there, right on the beach. Definitely a fantastic excuse to take a bit of time away, to bring the family and, have some good fun.
I am considering it. I'm thinking about it. I'm actually thinking about going down, and because I haven't been to that part of New South Wales, and it looks like a really nice place.
Yeah,
that's a great excuse to learn something, and at the same time have a tax deductible trip.
Well, that's it. You cover off all your CPD in the one event, all across a few different paradigms. So as we know, we can only get 5 hours per area, and I know this because I had the discussion about it last night. But there's so many things that we can learn, and making new relationships, friendships, and fellow practitioner relationships as well.
Okay, so before we finish up, do you have any final tips or a final tip when it comes to just embracing technology in the future?
Yeah, I think it's just about being open-minded. I think look at the research, see what things are coming through. If you're unsure about, why someone's using something, or, does that really work? If you're thinking that, then you need to ask those questions. Go to someone that's passionate. There's a lot of people that are quite passionate out there about certain things, and say, why are you passionate about this? What is it about this intervention or implementation that means that you feel that you're getting better outcomes for your patient? I think being inquisitive and asking those questions is the first step, and just basically being open-minded towards the new technologies. Because even like like we're saying, that cognitive behavior therapy and depression, we don't want to be taking this up in 49 years when it's something that we can put into place now and get those great outcomes for 30 years potentially before it's actually broadly and widespread.
Okay, great. And just before we finish up, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact you?
They can jump through to Facebook, Learn. So the Learn at My Health Education is a good way. The other way is through South Coast Foot Surgery. Otherwise, I'm more than happy for people to contact me on Facebook or through LinkedIn as well. Okay.
And I think I've covered everything that I had written down that I wanted to ask. So, excellent. Dr. Kent, I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast again. And I'm taking a guess. I'm probably going to get you back and we'll talk about something else.
Oh, it's what topic rather than when.
That's fantastic. Okay, so thanks a lot for coming on.
Sounds good, Tyson. Thanks for your time. Cheers.
Okay, bye.